Well, hello everybody and welcome back down to my allotment. I'm here in Grandad's greenhouse at the moment. Now, I thought I'd take you on a bit of a tour over my allotment today. This is Sunday and it's the first day we've actually had decent weather that I can get down here all week. What with the storm Kieran coming in and the tornado last weekend, it's just been wet all week and dark when I finish work. So it's the first visit I've been able to make here this week. And first thing I did today was actually harvest my potatoes from one bed. These are my main crop potatoes. We've got another bed that I'm going to save for either next week or the week after. I've just got these out before we get too wet ground and before the frosts really start coming in. But I'm quite happy with what we've got. We've got Sarpo Myra, these red-skinned ones, which I'm quite happy with the volume that we have. They're a decent size. Then we've got Morris Piper. I'm quite happy with what we've got there. A lot of scab on them, which does happen on my allotment quite a bit with scab. But I'm happy with what we got because the foliage on these Maris Piper really didn't thrive or do that well. So I'm pretty happy. Could have been better, don't get me wrong, but I'm happy with what we've got nonetheless. Earlier today I actually sowed some seeds inside here for salad leaves throughout the winter. Obviously they're not going to do anything just yet, but we'll show you what's going on later on this year. Let me take you outside and show you what's going on outside. Now, as you can see, both these greenhouses are standing here with no real problems, which is obviously surprising after we had that tornado come through last weekend, but we also had Storm Kieran, or whatever they call it, this week, and neither of these had any damage. Grandad's greenhouse, perfectly fine, which I'm pleased about. That again, no damage on Uncle Tim's greenhouse, but we're still trying to get hold of the right size glass without paying for it, which is easier said than done. But it's still here. I'm happy with that. So I'd like to get this up and running soon. But, you know, we don't know what the weather's going to be like, and greenhouses on this allotment do suffer quite a bit of damage. Now, these two beds here, where Charles and Camilla, they're empty now. So was hoping to clear these out this week. Unfortunately, it's not been the right week, like I said, to do that sort of thing. So that's not the end of the world. Gives us something to do over the next couple of weeks. We'll move down to here, my leeks. Now, the weeds have obviously grown through. As I said, I need to be down here quite regularly to try and get on top of the weeds. And because it's been wet, we haven't been able to get in here. So the weeds have grown, but I've noticed a couple of the leeks have also been blown over. Not the end of the world, because they're still edible. We'll use those first. And we've still got plenty of leeks that will last us right throughout the winter. So not doing too bad with those. We've just got to give them a good weeding. In this bed here, we've planted out some kale, and that's doing okay. The red kale particularly doesn't seem to be affected by birds, and I'm happy with that. Now that leaves us with 4 other beds. 2 of these beds that I've already sown Phacelia green manure in, and that Phacelia it's slow growing at the moment. Normally it grows much faster, but I think it's just a little bit too cold for it. I'm not worried, because come the end of February is when we hoe that all down. That'll be ready for potatoes going in next year. The other bed, I had beans growing in there earlier this year and courgettes. We've harvested 2 courgettes today, which might be the last ones, I'm not sure. But all the time the plants are thriving, or still holding on to life, I should say, I tend to leave them until they start really showing signs that they are dying back. Then the other 2 beds, which are my main crop potatoes, as I said, I've just dug one of those beds over. The other one I'll probably in the next couple of weeks remove the potatoes from there, and again they're just going to be for green manures over the winter. We're not going to try and get anything else in there. We're just going to make the most of what we have for the time being. As I said, this allotment, it's cold in the winter like most allotments, but it's very windy, so I try and do more at home as opposed to here in the winter months. So let's head on up over to the top half of the plot and we can see what's going on up there. Now, of course, autumn heading into winter, things like the rhubarb will start to die back down, and it always, to me, looks a little bit on the bleak side. But we're lucky here that we can still grow things throughout the winter. Brassicas are not doing too bad. We've got plenty of Brussels sprouts. We've got purple sprouting broccoli that is going to be doing already in next year. And then, of course, the garlic and the onions that we've sown recently as well are are starting to show signs of life. So it's not all bad, but I always feel winter, all we need is a few decent dry days like today, and we can actually get a lot done. It's particularly infrastructure jobs, things like tidying things up and building things, because we ain't got to worry about looking after the plants. So I still feel, you know, this is such a great time of year to be here on the allotment. Now, there are things that are doing quite well still. Shark's fin melon, for example, we got 2 melons on this one plant, which is quite long, and I don't know when to harvest them. I'm sort of waiting for the stalk to go brown as to when's the best time to harvest them, but I'm really impressed with how these are looking. I quite like and can't wait to see what they taste like. We'll report back on that as and when it happens. And then our Swiss chard as well, you know, that is thriving. Really pleased that I've planted that out. But that being said, we do have a plant down there that is looking a little bit worse for wear. Now these 2 beds just here are empty at the moment. Again, we're going to get peas and beans in these, which is going to happen probably next week actually. But the bed that I'm talking about is a hugel culture bed. And this is obviously a bit of an experiment this year. I'm quite pleased with how hugel culture turned out. Much better for squash plants. The onions not so much, but squash plants have done fantastic. Now, we have got this patty pan squash in there, which is looking like it is dead. You know, the frosted cold has really got to it now, so it is time to come out. But again, we've still got a couple of patty pan squashes on it, so you know, we still got food producing on there. And then of course we've got our butternut squashes, which I've got to admit, butternut squashes haven't done very well this year, but they're still ripening, so we're not going to harvest those just yet. We'll wait until they have completely died down. But I've got to say the hugel culture bed has done pretty well for squash plants, so I'm going to continue experimenting with hugel culture in the future and see just what we get. Well, that brings me up to the end of this allotment here today. End of November, everything's looking a little bit miserable, but changes happen over the next few months. So please do keep watching, and I'll take you with my winter journey, especially in the greenhouse. It's going to be interesting to see how much we can grow inside that greenhouse. Now, what I want to know, have you suffered any damage in the recent storm? And of course, I'm naturally sorry if you have, but let us know down in the comments what damage you have suffered. Right, I'll see you again next time.